Meet Rajan, a software engineer running entirely on fumes and anxiety. He's been desperately trying popular manifestation rituals to secure a promotion at work. Every single morning for 3 months, he sat down and wrote the exact same sentence, "I will get promoted." But the moment he actually stepped into a team meeting, his vocal cords would tighten, and he remained completely paralyzed by the fear of speaking up. Lighting a candle and writing down his goals created a quiet, temporary illusion of control. But the second he faced real-world pressure, like his manager asking for an opinion, that calm evaporated completely. Generic positive thinking and spiritual rituals fall completely flat if the underlying mind remains terrified of failure. The words on the paper were whispering, but his physical fear was shouting. Frustrated, Rajan finds himself sitting in a dusty monastery garden, venting to an old monk. He argues that manifestation is wishful thinking, a performative ritual that masks a lack of real progress. Surprisingly, the monk agrees. He tells Rajan that writing sentences and staring at a candle is merely performing a hollow ritual, not actively training the mind to handle stress. The monk points out a harsh biological reality. The external universe does not care what is in your head, but your nervous system absolutely does. Curious, if manifestation isn't magic, it leaves a biological gap. What is physically happening inside the human brain when someone appears to speak their reality into existence? Rajan pushes back. He wants to know why his consistent daily mantra of "I will get promoted" failed to produce even a single drop of confidence. The problem starts with chemistry. Rajan's baseline anxiety causes his body to spike its production of cortisol, the threat hormone. This chemical flood literally takes the rational, confident part of his brain offline, allowing his internal alarm center to hijack his behavior before he even enters the meeting room. Your brain acts as a highly skeptical judge. It actively rejects hollow wishes or generic positive phrases that contradict its current wiring. Look at this cross-section of the human brain. Right behind your forehead is the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, or VMPFC. This is your command center for self-concept. When you feed it a generic desire, like "I will get promoted" or "I will be rich," the region stays dark. It doesn't recognize the statement as true. But research out of the University of Pennsylvania by Dr. Emily Falk reveals a specific trigger. When those statements are anchored to deeply held personal values, this exact region illuminates. It immediately activates the brain's reward circuits, releasing dopamine and serotonin. Following the monk's advice, Rajan shifts his morning mantra. Instead of a generic wish for a promotion, he focuses on his core value, creating financial security for his family. Shifting an affirmation from a hollow wish to a statement of core identity physically suppresses the release of stress chemicals. You move the brain out of survival mode and into growth mode. Rajan remains a skeptic. He points out that sitting alone thinking about family security won't magically make him write better code or lead a meeting. He's right, and it comes down to a neuroscientific principle called long-term potentiation. In this diagram, you see 2 neural nodes. The rule is simple. Neurons that fire together wire together. Repeating a thought carves a groove in your neural architecture. But repetition without action isn't enough to convince the skeptical mind. Without real-world proof, that new connection quickly degrades and fades away. The required solution is to pair the new thought with a micro-action. For Rajan, that means going into work and speaking up just once in his morning stand-up. That tiny physical action forces the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, to file the event as episodic memory. You've given the internal judge hard evidence, which instantly locks that new neural pathway into place. Belief does not magically precede reality. Belief follows behavior. The brain updates its internal map based directly on the footprints on your actions. Rajan has one final hurdle. If this is all just internal brain chemistry, why do people constantly claim that the universe suddenly brings them new opportunities once they start manifesting? We can strip away the mysticism by looking at the brainstem, specifically a cluster of neurons called the reticular activating system, or RAS. Think of it as your ultimate biological bouncer. Here is how that bouncer works. At any given moment, your brain is bombarded by millions of bits of data. The RAS filters almost all of it out, letting through only the exact information that matches your existing self-concept. As Rajan's self-concept shifts from an anxious employee to a capable provider, the mesh adjusts. His brain stops filtering out the career opportunities, the offhand conversations, and the strategic risks he used to ignore entirely. You aren't attracting new opportunities from the ether. You are simply rewiring your nervous system to finally see the open doors you have walked past your entire life. The monk's science-backed blueprint breaks down into a strict process. First, identify a core, deeply held personal value, rather than a material wish. Second, timing. Vocalize this value during the alpha and theta brainwave windows, those quiet moments right after you wake up or just before you fall asleep. The brain is highly receptive to new encoding during these states. Third, and most curiously, immediately pair that spoken value with a tiny physical action. Give your hippocampus the proof it needs to solidify the neural connection. Rajan walks back to his car. He realizes for the first time that his mind is not fixed, it is moldable clay. He realizes that every repeated thought had been a physical instruction to his nervous system, and he finally knows how to write a new one. Rewiring your internal neural architecture changes your behavior, and your new behavior forces the external world to respond to you differently. You are not convincing the universe, you are convincing yourself.